Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to ATP Live Monday. Welcome everyone. I'm just trying to okay. All right. Good evening everyone, whichever platform you're joining us from. I want to welcome you to ATP Live Monday, where we get to answer any questions that you may have about the health of your children. Before we start, we're just going to share the video so that everybody can see us and they can hear us. So, welcome. Okay. Okay. So, I'm just going to share the videos to everywhere. All right. So, thank you to those joining us on Instagram, those joining us on Facebook, those joining us on YouTube. You're all welcome. I'm also just going to share the video. Just give me 1 or 2 minutes to do that. But if you have any questions, you are welcome to start dropping your questions under the video and we will try and answer them. Okay, so let me just share the video. Just my stories. Alright, can't find my stories anymore. Okay, anyway, I'll just share to where I can share it. Um, okay, I think I'm almost done with all the sharing. Just 1 more minute. All right. Um, Welcome to ATP Live Monday. Just trying to share the video so that everybody can see. Okay. And then let's do the pinning. Okay. Okay, cancel the video again in the group. Anyway, I'll do that later. Okay, so welcome everyone to ATP Live Monday, whichever platform you're watching from, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Welcome in our group, on our page, whichever platform you're watching from. I also welcome you to ATP Live Monday. ATP Live Monday is a program where you get to ask any questions that you may have about the health of your children, and you will get immediate answers live in the 60 minutes that we have for the program. But remember that if you have any questions beyond the live sessions, you can actually go to our Facebook group, and you can ask your questions Monday to Saturdays. You can always post your questions to the group, and we'll try and answer them as soon as we can. So welcome everyone. I hope you've had a lovely day. Monday is always a busy day for most of us back at work and the children back to school. But I'm happy you're able to join us today. So we are going to start now. But if you have any question, feel free to post your question. Remember to start with the age of your child, and then tell us briefly what your concerns are, and then remember to ask your questions. Don't just leave the comments without asking a question. And so that's just that. Also remember that if any of those topics that we talk about, if you want to read more about them, you are welcome to get to our website www.activepaediatricians.com, and you can read them in details. You can also watch all these videos on our YouTube channels, ATP TV. They are permanently always there, so you can always rewatch. And if you are watching our program after the live section is over, in other words, if you're watching after 7 p.m. Nigerian time, that means you're likely watching the recorded video. So if you still have any question after watching the whole video and your question has not been answered, you can always go to our Facebook group and ask your questions. We have Ask the Pediatricians Facebook group is mainly for children health issues, while we also have the ATP family Facebook group, which is where you can ask adult health related questions. So those are the two major groups. So we still have the FCM group and the ATP Still a Mom group as well, mostly for FTM, like the name suggests, for supporting first time mothers, and for ATP Still a Mom for supporting moms who may have been bereaved through pregnancy, losses, or child death. So those are the groups that we have, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have about the health of your children. So we're here. I'm just checking now, and I can see any question yet. So let me just check on Instagram. For those of you who are watching from the if you're on our Facebook group and you have a question, remember that you have to click on the video itself so that you'll be able to drop your questions for the host to see. Otherwise, if you just drop it, um, on the in the group itself, I may not be able to say, but I'll try and check on my phone just to be sure there's no question drop under the video. But the best option is to always click on the video, and then you can drop your questions there, and then we will answer them as soon as we see them. Okay. Okay. Let me check on Instagram. I've not seen any question yet, so I'm waiting for people to ask their questions, then we will answer them. And then I hope we are all doing well with the rest of the year. This is generally the time of the year that tends to be cold, and we tend to get a lot of children having colds and all that. But remember what we need to do to protect our children. All right. Good evening, Loretta Mole. God bless you. Grateful for all you do for all. Thank you so much, and thank you for always being consistent here. Even I think you're one of our most consistent youth Instagram fan. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, So feel free to ask your questions. And okay, Chami for King too has joined us. Chami for King and Lord Samuel, very always consistent on Instagram. Thank you so much. Facebook people, I hope you are there. I can't seem to see Facebook people there today. Okay, but if you have any question, feel free to ask your questions and I will try and answer them. I think I should just address one post that I've been seeing recently. People have been asking a lot about malaria vaccine, and I've seen some people sharing like a immunization schedule that has included the malaria vaccine. Yes, malaria vaccine is now available and it's still being introduced, but it is not yet routine. So, in other words, when we say routine, it's not yet available in all the health centers. So, we don't want you to be confused about it. So, once it is available, we will be able to update the national program on immunization and then we will share it with you, and it will have the Nigerian government logo. It will have the national primary health care development agency logo, because those are the agent that's the agency that is saddled with immunization. So those are the ones that we be able to tell you what immunizations are available and free. So whenever we're introducing new vaccines, we usually introduce them in phases. Phases means that we everybody will not get it at a time. So usually they will start with 1 or 2 stages and increase it until it becomes something everybody can get, because even during that phase there's still lots of research going on. There's what we call phase 4 research, where we're making sure that as children are taking the vaccines, they are not having any harm and side effects and all that. So that is why introducing new vaccine is always gradually. So as at today, malaria vaccine is not yet routine. It's not yet something all the children will get at the health center. So, but it is currently being introduced gradually into the Nigerian system. But when it is available fully for everybody to get, we will let you know. So for now, while we're waiting for malaria vaccine, we should still take all the normal precaution in protecting our children against malaria. And the number one is let our children sleep under long lasting insecticide treated nets. So not just ordinary nets. Most of us use mosquito nets. Most of our doors have nets, but we should also let there are mosquito nets that have been treated with insecticide and they can last for 5 years. So those are the kind of nets we should let the children sleep under. So we want to reduce the exposure to mosquito bites, because it is from mosquito bite that the malaria parasite is introduced into the body, and before people can have malaria. We are not trying to give our children drugs to stop them from having malaria, because we want them to actually develop certain level of immunity against malaria. But because for children that are treated with drugs and they don't have malaria at all, when they eventually have malaria, it can be quite severe. So it is okay for our children to have a little bit of exposure to malaria so that they can develop immunity, because we live in malaria endemic country. So I think I should just update us about that. Okay, Chami for King is saying, what is RS virus? Is it RSV? Okay, so RSV is respiratory syncytial virus. I don't know whether that is helpful for you to know the name, but it's just one of those viruses that can cause cough and catarrh in children. Yeah, I know. Is it because of the vaccine? For those who live outside Nigeria, they are going to introducing a vaccine against RSV, because it's for them, that is their own kind of malaria. So it's one of the commonest causes of flu and all that in those countries. They have the flu vaccine separate. That is caused by influenza virus. Then you now have the respiratory syncytial virus, which can also cause respiratory infections, just like the name suggests. Currently, there are moves to also introduce a vaccine against the RSV virus. So, Shami for King, I don't know whether that is where your question is coming from, but currently it is not an issue for us, those of us in tropical countries. It's not a major issue for us. I'm not saying it's non-existent, but it's not our major, one of the major causes of illness in our children. And which again brings me to another concern that people have been raising, asking question about some hospitals or clinics. They want your children to take flu vaccine, and I think the last person that asked that question says about 60,000 naira, and she was really concerned about it. So I want to just also say that I know some of our private hospitals, they just they gave us the impression that the more vaccine give your children, the better. It's not always correct. That is the truth. So there are vaccines, there are a lot of vaccines, but it is not necessary that all of them are for children to take. That's number one. And number two, vaccines are also location dependent. So we don't just give everybody the same. There are some conditions that are kind of universal. So everywhere they can have measles, everywhere they can have maybe hepatitis, but there are certain conditions that are a little bit more regional, so it's not everywhere they get it. For example, tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is not a big deal for those in maybe the Caucasians or those who live in the areas where the weather is kind of temperate, it's not tropical. So, for example, we give our children BCG vaccine. And we actually give them at birth because we are endemic for tuberculosis. But if you go to the UK, for example, they won't give your child BCG vaccine unless you ask for it. Unless you ask for it because you know that you are from Africa or Nigeria and you're still going to take your children back home from time to time. So you want to protect them. But their own children, they won't typically give them BCG vaccine. I'm just using that as an example to let you know there are vaccines that we don't just give everybody. Okay, so and there are vaccines that they give in certain parts of the world that we may not give in our home part of the world. So BCG vaccine is not typically given in the United Kingdom, for example. Whereas we in Nigeria, that's the very first vaccine that we're going to give to our children, to show you how important it is for us. Now, things like flu vaccine, which they also give abroad, but they don't even give to the babies. So I'm always so shocked and so worried that some of our private hospitals are now giving flu vaccines to children, and they are giving them to children as young as 6 months old. Number one, you don't need to take flu vaccine in Nigeria. Okay, that is number one, because flu is not a problem for us. So the way they have flu, what we have is malaria. So that's why malaria vaccine is coming for us, but not flu vaccine. And even abroad where they have flu, they don't give their babies flu vaccine. They don't give them at 6 months. They usually give flu vaccine when children start school age, because that is when it's an issue. The only children we give flu vaccine younger than that will be children that are at risk of who have some immune deficiency or some peculiar health issues, and we know that if they have those health issues, they are prone to having, if they get flu or any of those respiratory infection, they are going to have very serious illness. But the average child, they don't give them flu vaccine at 6 months, even in countries where flu is a big deal for them. So I don't know why we in Nigeria, where flu is not even a big issue for us, not only did we want to start giving our children flu vaccine, but we also give them at the age that even places where they have it as a major issue, they don't give it. So these are some of the challenges with private hospitals just doing what I call bad wagon effect, where they just want to do everything because they think the more they do, the better. No, it is not always the more you do, the better. So if you are one of those people, typically I always advise parents, that when it comes to immunization, please go to the health centers. You are likely going to get better services in the health center than your private hospitals. Number one, you're not going to pay for anything in the health centers. Number two, your vaccines, you can trust me, the cold chain is not broken. Whereas you can't trust your private hospital's cold chain. Some of them may not always maintain their temperature, their refrigerator, NEPA takes lights, they may not always put the light on, so you can't always maintain it. Then some of them, they just charge you unnecessarily for these unnecessary vaccines. So vaccines, some of the vaccines they give you in private hospitals that you should stop taking and stop paying unnecessary money for. Number one, that flu vaccine, absolutely unnecessary. You should stop taking it. You should don't even need to take it in the first place, because even places where they have flu vaccine, they don't give the 6 month old flu vaccine. Okay, they give it to school age children. Two, cholera vaccine. Stop taking. There's no need for you to take cholera vaccine. Cholera vaccine is not recommended for routine use in children. Cholera vaccine is for travelers. If you are traveling to a cholera endemic area, then you can take the vaccine. It only lasts for 6 months. So I don't understand the point of giving people a vaccine that will last for 6 months in children. The most important prevention against cholera is hygiene, food hygiene, water hygiene, not vaccines. So, and the vaccine is like a short-term effect for people that must travel to an endemic where there's a cholera outbreak going on and you have to go there. But otherwise, average child every day, they don't need cholera vaccine. Which other one do they normally give? Hepatitis A as well. It's not routinely recommended by the WHO for children. Again, these are vaccines that are recommended for people going to areas where there is an epidemic and you are trying to give them protection. So there are a lot of vaccines that people give that are really unnecessary. It's really private hospitals very prone to doing that kind of sharp practices. Things like chicken pox you can take, things like MMR, mumps, rubella you can take. Those are not yet part of the national program, but they are fine for you to take. But those other ones, flu vaccine, cholera vaccine, typhoid fever vaccine, you don't need to take it as well for children. Again, it is only recommended for somebody who is a traveler, who is going to an endemic area. So there's no point taking typhoid fever vaccine routinely. So these are vaccines that are not routine and not even recommended for children, but some of our private hospitals do offer them and make you pay unnecessary money for them. So you should just stay away from those kind of vaccines. If you are not sure, always ask us so that we always tell you what I want to say. And what even annoys me is they are just so unnecessarily expensive. They are unnecessary vaccine, but they are making you pay so much money for them. So you don't need to do that. All right. Okay. I've got some questions on Facebook. I think I'll come back to Instagram. Um, Gifted, define you say, at what months is using baby lotion recommended? You can use lotion for your babies from day one. What we normally say is just that you need to keep your baby's skin moisturized. So whether it's a lotion, whether it's a cream, whether it's ointment, like the most important thing is that you use something that keep your baby's skin moisturized. And the most important thing is that you use what is hypoallergenic, something your child is not going to react to. Challenge with most of these so-called baby products is that they are all loaded with chemicals. They are trying to make it smell nice. They want the baby to smell lovely, which is quite good. But the challenge is that all those smells, some of them are chemicals, and babies tend to have what we call sensitive skin. Babies' skins are still very tender, so some babies react to those chemicals. So when we say hypoallergenic, we want you to use products that are as natural as possible and free of chemicals as much as possible, so that your child chances of reacting to them is like, so you can use lotion for your baby, just make it something that your child is not reacting to. So we recommend preferably things like oil, like natural oils, like your olive oil, your coconut oil, your shea butter, your Vaseline Blue Seal. These are products that are usually can moisturize your baby's skin, and they don't have all those chemicals that your children can react to. So that is why we recommend them. But there's no special age for using lotions or all those cream. I know some mother will say, I don't rub anything on your baby's skin. That is not true. That is not what we recommend. Sometimes mothers, when we say one, they will take it to be. What we actually don't recommend is powder. You using powder on your baby's skin, because powder does just dry up the skin, and drying up the skin will make the baby's skin itchy, and then they can have rashes. So we don't want powder, but lotion or anything that will moisturize the skin, those are okay. So nobody said don't use oil or lotion. What we say is use something that is hypoallergenic. What we say you should not use is powder. And people always ask again, when can I start using powder? You don't ever need to use it, because it's not really necessary for babies. The only time where we use powder is, for example, when children have itch rashes and you need itch rash powder. But otherwise, most of the time, you don't need powder. You need something to keep the baby's skin moisturized. When you use powder, you dry it up, which is what we don't want. So I hope that is helpful. All right. Kola Wale is saying, how do my baby nanny preserve my breast milk without spoiling? How do your baby nanny? Okay, I wonder why it's only your nanny that needs to preserve the milk. You should also be interested in preserving your own milk. So it's not just for the nanny, it's for both of you. All right. So there are many ways to store breast milk. So if you express your breast milk and you leave it at room temperature, the breast milk can stay for up to 6 hours without anything happening to it. So breast milk left at room temperature will be okay for 6 hours. If you leave the breast milk in a fridge, normal fridge, the fridge that you open up and down, you can leave it there for 3 to 5 days. That is a fridge. Most, if you keep it just in your regular fridge, you can leave it for up to 5 days, and it will store nicely. Nothing will happen to it. If you put it in the freezer of your fridge, so the freezer that goes with the fridge, in other words, something you open a lot of time, it can stay up to 2 weeks without anything happening to it. And if you leave it in a deep freezer, a freezer that you don't open all the time, that has regular constant power supply, it can stay for up to 3 months. So you can store your breast milk for up to 3 months in a dedicated freezer that you don't open all the time. So, so if you express, so depending on what you have, most of us, I think we have fridge, and most of us are fridge, can last. And if you are the kind of mom that, you only need babies to have that breast milk when you are not around, and you're able to express in the morning before you go, you don't even need to store it. It can be used for 6 hours before you come back. But of course, it's better to express ahead so you have enough expressed, and the best place to keep it in your fridge. The most important thing is that when you express breast milk, please label it. You must always label it with the date and with the time. And when your nanny is using them, they must always start with the oldest expressed breast milk. In other words, if you express breast milk today, you expressed breast milk yesterday, 2 days ago. When the nanny is going to feed the baby, she should start with the one that was expressed 2 days ago. Don't express your breast, don't add them together, which is, I see a lot of mothers do that. They express one milk, then they express another one, and they will add it on top. Don't do that. When you express each milk, you should preferably express the quantity your baby will finish at a go, or at least store them in the quantity the baby can finish at one go. So maybe 120 mils, 150 mils, and then you label it. Then you express another date and time, so that everybody will know when it was expressed and all that. We have the breastfeeding videos. So if you go on our Facebook group, go to the guide section. We have the guide one on breastfeeding, and there are breastfeeding videos. There's one on how to express and how to store your breast milk safely. So, and of course, remember the hygiene, washing your hands and all that. And when they want to feed the baby breast milk, we don't encourage you to microwave it, because microwave will cause some area that could be hot, area that will be cold. It won't be even. So we expect that you boil water in a bowl, and then you put the container of that breast milk in that hot water. It will warm it up to the temperature of the water, or at least room temperature, and that's what you give your baby. And if the baby does not finish the breast milk that you've removed from the fridge, or that you have frozen before and you have now allowed it to thaw, you should throw it away. Don't freeze it again, because I think a mother asked us that question last week. So she brought out the breast milk, but the baby didn't use it. So she was asking whether she can put it back in the fridge. No. Once you have thawed the breast milk, that is it. If it didn't baby didn't use it, you have to throw it away. Okay, so I think that is all about expressing breast milk, storing breast milk. But it's a very good idea that you plan to um breastfeed your baby. Okay, Loretta Mal is saying 1 year vaccine at FMC Abuja is above 100,000. What vaccine? Because in Nigerian program on immunization, there is no vaccine at all as 1 year. The vaccine we give at 12 months, or whatever we give at 12 months, is just vitamin A, and it is free. Okay. At 15 months, we give measles vaccine, measles 2, and it is free. However, there are certain vaccine people can give you if you want. Like they can give you the chickenpox vaccine, they can give you the MMR vaccine. So if you want that, you have to pay for it. But it is all up to you. You don't have to pay for all those extra vaccines. So if you want to pay for it, it's your choice. But please make sure you are not paying for any of those other rubbish or necessary vaccines that I've mentioned. So don't go and pay for typhoid fever, cholera, hepatitis A, flu vaccine. Don't You are just wasting your money. You don't need to pay for those ones, and you don't need to take them. But the only vaccine I think you may want to take extra, maybe chickenpox, maybe MMR. Otherwise, you don't really need to take any of those extra vaccines. So I hope that is helpful. All right. Kalawale, Sarah, I hope you got that part of your question. Olubumi Aguloye, good evening. Can I give maybe paracetamol 1/2 after immunization? I don't understand what you mean by 1/2. What do you mean by 1/2? Okay, so if your baby has fever after immunization, you can give paracetamol. There's no problem with giving paracetamol. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of posts on social media about so-called doctors, so-called nurses, so-called health professionals telling you not to give paracetamol after immunization, like maybe it's going to spoil the the effect of the vaccines and all that. That is not true. That is a lie. Okay. People that say that, immediately the people say things like that, you know that they are not professionals. You know that there are fake, they are quacks. Because if you know the what we call the pathogenesis, or the how things happen, in if your child is already having fever, that fever is actually telling you there was a response. Okay, so when we give vaccine, the vaccines trigger some parts of the body to produce certain agents. We'll call them interleukins and all that. I'm not going to bore you with all the medical jargons, but basically it is that process, the fact that the vaccine is causing certain things to happen in the body that can make the child to have fever. Okay, so the vaccine is already working. It's not is the vaccine doesn't the fact that you now give paracetamol to stop the fever is not going to make the vaccine not to have any effect, if that makes sense to you. All right, there is already effect. In fact, the fever you are getting is a sign that there's something going on in the body, and the body is a little bit reacting. And you giving the paracetamol, the way the paracetamol works is not it's not going to stop what the vaccine is doing, but it's going to reduce the effects of the fever that those agents are generating. So they are two separate pathways, if that makes sense. And you don't also always need to have fever to know that your baby's vaccine is working. Okay, that's another caveat I quickly need to put, because some of you say, oh, if your baby doesn't have fever, that means the vaccine didn't work. That is not true. Okay, there are different ways vaccines create reactions. So it's not all the time you have a fever, but if you have a fever, you are welcome to reduce the fever, because if the fever is so high, it can make the child to convulse and all that, and that has something to do with the effect of the vaccine. So if your child has taken vaccine and they have fever, please give them paracetamol. Okay. Now the dose of paracetamol you give is depending on the weight of your child. Everything in pediatrics is about the weight. Unlike adults, where you people have just one dose for everybody. Everybody is supposed to be weighing 70 kilos, and everybody take the same dose of drugs. It's not like that in children. Our children vary. So a newborn baby is different from a 1 month old, different from a 5 month old, different from a 1 year old. So the amount of drugs we give each baby is varies according to their weight. Okay. So I always find it hard when people come back, and that is when you are now asking for the dose of the paracetamol. Before you leave the hospital, you should have asked, if my baby has fever, what should I give? And if I'm going to give paracetamol, what's the quantity? And like this question you've asked us now, you've not told us the age of your baby, you've not told us the weight of your baby. So we cannot even tell you this is a quantity, and you were asking whether 1.5. I don't understand what that means, but then you're also not giving us the context. So we cannot say this is the quantity to give your baby and all that. But I always tell parents, even though you may not always know, if you don't know and you're already at home, the pack of the paracetamol will also give you a guide. So they will tell you if your baby is between so age to so age, give 2.5 million, maybe it's so age, so age. You can still follow that. It's a approximation. It's not always accurate, but at least it will still be close guide. So if you are not sure, look at the bottle of paracetamol, look at the quantity that they say you should give for the age of your baby, and you can give that. But the best option is to always ask before you leave the hospital, because they just weigh your baby and they can work out the quantity. And then people also like to give the drops. So the paracetamol drops is for the newborn baby. It's not for the older baby. So once your baby is older than a newborn, you can give them paracetamol syrup. And then based on the weight, that will tell us how much we need to give. So that is about that, Olubumi. And I say maybe always rub her eyes anytime she wants to go to sleep. That is a normal thing for babies to do, and I think adults do it as well. I don't think that is anything to worry about. So, and uh, anytime she wants to sleep, white stockings, and it's normal for babies to rub their eyes. It's, even adults do that, so there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you. All right, let's go on. Irene to Ita. My 2.3-year-old is so much hyperactive. Wow, okay. And cannot talk and forget easily. What should I do? Okay, when you say hyperactive, that is a relative terminology, because we expect babies to be busy and to be active, but I guess maybe your baby is too busy for even what you expect averagely, but we need to that is subject to who is deciding whether baby is hyperactive or not. But what worries me about your baby is that your baby is not talking. For a 2-year-old who is not talking, definitely I'm concerned. A 2-year-old should be saying at least two word phrases, so you should be combining at least two words together, 2 to 3 words. So if your baby is not talking at all, but then I really want to know, like, what can your baby say? Because a lot of time parents say my baby is not talking, and what they really means that baby is not speaking sentences, not that baby is not saying any word at all. But for us, it's very important that you are very specific. But if your 2-year-old is not saying any words at all, or the baby is not combining words together, then you need to see a speech therapist. And then because you also worry about some behavior, especially if the baby is also showing hyperactive, you think your baby is hyperactive, but I'm worried about it. Is maybe showing some what we call repetitive behavior, or some stimming kind of behavior. If you're worried about your baby's like really interacting with other people as well, then we need to be sure whether this child also have autism, and we need to do autism screening. Okay, so that is what we need to do. But if you are not sure of the behavior part, if it's just a speech alone, at least you can start with seeing a speech therapist. Most speech therapists, they can also pick up if the child just has only a speech delay, or if the child also has traits or features of autism, and which means the child needs to have a full autism assessment. So those are things that we can do about that. So, depending on where you are, you can. I always tell people, always ask me, where can I get a speech therapist? You can nowadays you can Google almost everything. Just Google who is a speech therapist near me, or go to your teaching hospital. Most of them should have speech therapy, and then they can help do an assessment, and then they can advice further. You can also do what we call the autism screening. If you go to Autism Speak, or if you go on our website, if you ask this question on our Facebook group, we can send you the link to the MCHAT screening, which is recommended depending on what your child score. If the child scores very high, then that means that child needs to see a developmental pediatrician for an autism assessment. But if it's just speech alone and the score is low, then the child just needs to see a speech therapist. So I hope that is helpful. All right. I don't think I have any question on Instagram that I may have mixed. Okay. We do get a lot of questions about milestones in children, and I think the most important thing first is to know. Okay, Rena is adding some information. She cannot concentrate at one place, always on moving. For a 2-year old, we expect them to be moving. We don't expect them to sit still in one place. But that's what we are saying, that if your child is moving and maybe moving compared to other children, maybe when you expect other children to sit and they are sitting and watching something, she's always moving. Yeah, that may be a sign, that there is more going on with the child. But usually at this age, concentration, moving is not a priority for us because we expect them to move. We don't expect babies to 2-year old to sit still. I know parents, that's what you like, for them to just be in one location, but it's not always um, this situation. So, but like I said, once you have concern about your child's development, the way you look at things may be different from the way the professionals will look at things. But it's good to see get a professional to have a look have a look about the child. I would recommend you do the autism screening. Let me see whether I can send you the link here. Autism Speak screening. Because that will also give you an idea of some of the concerns we have. Okay, I'm just trying to copy the link for you. Come on, copy. Okay. Okay, so I've just sent you a link for screening. So if you can do that, it will help you a bit to say, and depending on what the link says, you can now um, you can follow the advice based on what's your baby's screen. And please, when you're doing screening, it's not a pass or fail exam. It's not an exam. It's just be as truthful as what your child does. It's just for us to know whether we should worry more about the child and do further assessment, or we don't need to worry. That's just what it is. So I don't think you need to worry. Let me send the link also for those on Instagram. So you can always screen your child for autism around in from that link. Okay, I don't have any question on Instagram. We still have 15 minutes, so if you have any question, feel free to see ask your question. Okay, so while we're still waiting for questions, I can just go back and finish my thoughts on the immunization. So another thing we need to remember is that immunization doesn't end at 9 months. It doesn't end at 15 months because a lot of us, because of the gap between the 9 months vaccine, we tend to forget all the other ones. Please, there are still vaccines after 9 months. So there's a measles 2, and we give measles 2 at 15 months. There's also human papilloma virus HPV vaccine, and we give the HPV at 9 years. So please remember to go for those vaccines. You can set your phone. Most of us use smartphones these days, so we can always put our phone and to show to send us a reminder about those vaccines. So please, let's not forget to take the vaccines. And I know some of us we may forget, we are human beings. If once you remember some of the vaccines, you can always go back and take them. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, I forgot," and the time has passed. So that's it. No, you can. Some vaccines you can actually go back and take them if you forgot. So we have what we call catch up immunization. So there's opportunity for you to go and catch up on any vaccine, but it doesn't apply to all the vaccines. So there are some vaccines that unfortunately, once you've mixed the period, you've mixed it. There are not so many of them. So a very good one is rotavirus vaccine. Rotavirus vaccine is it protects against rotavirus infection. Rotavirus is the commonest cause of diarrhea and vomiting in children. So it's important that um, children are protected, even though we do our hygiene and all that. But no matter even how hygienic you are, this rotavirus is so common that a lot of children will say have it. So, which is why we give our children rota vaccine. However, because the peak period of children having rotavirus infection is between 6 and 11 months. So most of the protection we want for the baby is between 6 to 11 months. So in other words, we need to have taken the rotavirus vaccine before 6 months. So that is a challenge with rotavirus. So if you have not taken the first dose by 15 weeks, which is like 4 months averagely, it's a little bit more tricky, and by your second dose at least by 8 months. So some people say you can take it also in the first year of life, but it's one of those vaccines that once you've mixed it in that first 1 year, it's really first 6 months, the effect is almost no. Even if you give the child the vaccine, the goal has not been achieved because the goal has been defeated. Because the goal is to protect baby against the rota virus infection. But if you have not taken the vaccine, the chances that baby may have had the rota virus infection is high from 6 months and all that. So this is one of those vaccines that if you don't take it in the first 6 or 8 months, is really almost not necessary anymore because your child is now at risk of having rotavirus infection anyway, and the goal of the vaccine is to protect the child against that. But apart from that, I don't think most of the other vaccines you can always catch them up because they can still affect your baby much later in future. So things like BCG, you can always say BCG anytime. Things like hepatitis as well, we will give it anytime because even adults can have hepatitis. Things like HPV we will always give. Things like measles, especially in the first 5 years, we will give. Things like your pneumococcal vaccine, um, HIB, the um, influenza type B vaccine. Those ones we will still give Haemophilus influenza type B vaccine. We will still give those ones no matter what, as long as your baby is less than 5 years old, because your children can still have them. The meningitis vaccine we will always give it before the age of 5 years as well. So those ones you can always catch up. But for the rota, those are the ones that we may not be able to give again as well. And then some people miss the hepatitis B at birth. Usually, if you miss the hepatitis B zero, you can only take it up to 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks, you can't take hepatitis B0 again. But we will still give you hepatitis B1, and the rest are 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 14 weeks. And now we are hoping we should start giving the booster doses at 18 months and 5 years as well. Okay, I got a question from Samuel Oluwasegun. Good evening, ma'am. My 10-month-old baby can't stand on her own. I'm not worried about that. I mean, standing is an 11 to 12-month-old scale. So the baby is not yet even at the age that we expect baby to be standing. So there's nothing to worry about. I was actually going to address that issue earlier, but I think I got distracted. Okay, so the first thing for new parents is to know what are the normal milestones. Okay, so there are what we call normal milestones, which is the average age where baby attain some of these milestones. So, for example, your baby can standing is 11 to 12 months old averagely. I mean, that is even the average baby. Some babies may not even stand up to 13 months, 14 months, and it's still normal. We're not going to worry about it. We will start worrying about it at 18 months, but averagely 11 to 12 months. So I would recommend you familiarize yourself. We have information on our website about when is the normal time, and then when should you start to worry, because you don't always worry the following day. Like if you expect your baby to have neck control at 3 months, you're not going to worry at 3 months one day baby doesn't have neck control. We'll give the baby a little bit of time. So we'll say, okay, wait until 4 months. For example, sitting is 7 to 8 months, but if baby is not sitting at 8 months, we'll wait until baby is at least 9 months old before we worry. The same thing with standing, 11 to 12 months, but at least we'll wait a little bit, maybe 15 to 18 months. Walking is usually 1 year, but if your baby is not walking, I may not worry until 18 months. So we have to give the baby a little bit of time to get to catch up, because just like all of us, we always don't achieve certain things at certain age. It's a continuum, but then it got to a point where we know that this one is now late. So it is at that point where we really can see that it is really, really late, that we, the pediatricians, will start to worry or intervene, because at that time we're giving the baby a little bit of time to catch up if the baby was just a little bit slow, than normal. Also, when you try to stand there, she uses her toes and not standing on her full toes. I'm confused, but I guess you meant tip of her toes as against using her feet to stand. That is actually normal as well. When babies start to stand, they actually go on their tiptoes. So most babies, even when they start to walk, sometimes they walk on their tiptoes in the first 2 years. We are not worried about it. We will only worry about toe walking after 2 years. So if a child is still walking on their toes after 2 years, then that is when, as a pediatrician, we will worry about it. Okay, Loretta Moss, are we supposed to take another dose of chickenpox after 5 years? No, chickenpox is a one-dose vaccine. So if you take it and that's it, as far as I know, I think it's one dose vaccine. So there's no booster, but but depending on the brand, but most of the brands I know it surely should be one dose. In other words, you take it once and that is it. It's just like you take your BCG once and that's it. So that's for chickenpox. And then you wonder whether typhoid vaccine is necessary. I don't know whether you were listening when I said that. No, typhoid fever vaccine is not necessary for children. It is not something we recommend for children. So if it's something recommended for travelers, people who are going to, if there's a typhoid fever outbreak or epidemic and you have to go to that area, then it's recommended that you take that vaccine. But it's not a routine vaccine for children, so I don't expect you to give it to children. Okay. All right. Um Okay, yeah, Samuel. Okay, yes. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so I will not worry about your baby at all. I know as parents, parents are always doing developmental assessment all the time. We're always comparing our children to other children, but let's just be mindful of the fact that every child is different. Some children will do things a little bit early, and so because of that, when parents see other children maybe already walking at 10 months and their own child is not even standing, then it is natural to be a little bit anxious, but actually everybody will walk at their own time. You don't need to panic at all. So for us, we wait until what we call the cutoff time. So there's a cutoff age where everybody will know that, okay, this is now delayed. So for example, standing walking, we'll worry about 18 months. But before then, just let the child be. It's really your child is already standing, but not yet able to stand fully. So we are not going to worry about that. Okay. Okay, I think we've answered all the questions on Instagram. I'm just checking whether there's any other questions. So, but if our time is almost up, we have 5 more minutes. But if you still have any questions, remember that you can always post your questions on our Facebook group. Please be patient when you post because sometimes it takes us up to 48 hours sometimes to answer your questions. But if a child is ill, if a child is very sick, please don't post on Facebook and wait for a sick child. Child is having fever, child is having convulsion, child is breathing fast. A lot of the number of people that have sent us videos of their children's breathing is worrisome. So if a child is breathing any way that doesn't look normal, that child needs to go to the hospital because we need to examine the child. We need to listen to the chest. We cannot do that through the videos. And some of you even send us blackout videos and you want us to just listen to the sound of the breathing and say, oh, the sound the baby is making. Should I? No, we need to see the face. We need to see whether the child is showing signs of respiratory distress. We need to see the chest. At least we can do some observation from that. We need to count the respiratory rate for 1 minute. So sending us a 5-second video is not going to cut it. So generally speaking, I would say if a child has any difficulty with their breathing, they need to go to the hospital. That is it. They need to go to the hospital. So anything that is affecting, something is blocking their airway, something is making them to breathe so fast, or they are, unconscious, they are convulsing, those are emergencies. Or the child has a bones that is, very expensive and all that. Those kind of children have to go to the hospital because the earlier we see them, or a child has ingested maybe drugs or accidental poisoning, something they shouldn't have taken. Those are what we call emergencies or urgent situations, and that is when not to ask the pediatricians online. Those ones you have to go to the hospital. But if it's just general information, oh, should I breastfeed, how many days, how many hours should I store my breast with, those kind of information, they are not urgent. We can always answer them. We welcome you to ask us those kind of questions on our Facebook group from Mondays to Saturdays, and we answer them. But if your child is already very sick, please and please come to see us in the hospital so that we can quickly do what we need to do. I think we've had a lot of diphtheria outbreak, and I think a lot of us are quite aware. Unfortunately, we don't have booster doses yet, but at least please make sure that the penta vaccines that we give at 6 weeks, at 10 weeks, and at 14 weeks, please make sure you take your children for those vaccines. They are very, very important in protecting our children. I know there are lots of people we call anti-vaxxers, people who are preaching and telling you your children do not need to take these vaccines, blah, blah, blah. They're causing a lot of problems, even in places like Europe where we don't tend to have all these measles and stuff. Now we're beginning to have measles outbreak as a result of all this misinformation online. Please, it's better to protect our children and against conditions so that they don't have it rather than wait for them to have it and then they become very sick and they can die. Some of those diseases are killer diseases. They can kill children. So we don't want them to have them at all. So it's better to take our vaccines and protect our children against them. So thank you so much for those of you who have joined us today. And if you're just coming online, please listen to the video first. And you can, if you have questions still after this live session, please go to our Facebook group, post your questions there, and we answer them. If you want any topic you like, I'm sure we've talked about most of those topics. You can also watch full-on videos on each of those topics, like on immunization, on malaria, on developmental milestones, and all that. You can also watch detailed videos on those ones as well. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you same time next week by God's grace. Have a wonderful evening, and this is bye bye.